Okay, so we got it put in a vise here, and we're going to take a hacksaw and just finish sawing through. We got to be careful not to, not to dig into the washer. Got to stay off of it just a little bit. Get as close as we can. The hacksaw blade's about wore out. Stand here and use this hand so you can see. I'm sure all of you know how to use a hacksaw. But I didn't want to keep cutting in the lathe because it was starting to slip on that arbor a pretty good bit, and I didn't want it to slip, maybe move too far over and will, cut into the washer. Okay, there we go. You can see we got a little ways to go there to get it flattened off. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back here on the belt sander, and we're going to work most of that down until there's just a couple thousandths still sticking up, and then we'll finish that on the surface plate. Okay, we're going to get started here working this down a little bit on the belt sander. Try not to get our fingers in here. Don't want to cut into the washer either. It gets quite warm, so you get have some water around to cool it down. Take long for it to get warm. Okay, we got it down a good ways, so now we're gonna put it in the lathe, and we're gonna bore the center of the hole out, so it fits over the crank pin, and then we can use a cutting bit in the lathe to take the rest of this down, to maybe a thousandths or two, and then we'll sand it by hand on the surface plate the rest of the way. The way I got this washer mounted in the chuck is on them little, get that to focus there. The chuck jaws have little small grooves cut all the way around, and the washer fits in them grooves nicely, so you just put it in each groove, and that'll keep the washer fairly straight, straight enough to do what we're doing here. So we'll get started, and we're going to take very, very light cuts, because we don't want the washer to, the pressure of the tool bit to deform the washer, to kind of mushroom it out. So we're only going to take, a couple thousandths at a time. We don't have a long ways to go. Let me grab my calc. Now we are at 740 thousandths, and we need to go to 790 thousandths. Thousandths. got about 20 more thousandths to go. Excuse me, 30 more thousandths to go. Thousandths at a time. And slowly. Stop and check it there. We got about 5 more thousandths. And there we are, 790 thousandths. Okay, now what I'm going to use, I'm going to use the boring bar to just slightly, you know, cut down some of this lip that we had left over from where we cut it off with a hacksaw. I'll zoom in here so kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. And like I said, again, I'm going to only take just a thousandth or two at a time off, you know, to keep it from distorting the washer any. Bring it in so it just touches. I got the compost rest set parallel with the bed, that way I can feed it the tool post in that way. Thousandths at a time. Very slow. And just feed it in, just in and out just a few times without advancing the cut any. That way if there's any deflection in the washer, it'll take that material out, and you know, you don't just keep building up pressure. Okay, I believe I've took off all that I'm going to take off with this, and we'll do the rest of it on the surface plate. Okay, we're over here on the surface plate now, and we're going to start with a pretty coarse grit. This is 60 grit, and we'll just lay it down and kind of do a figure 8 pattern. And if you get our fingers in here, it's a good way to get your fingernails trimmed up. Hard to hold on. Put the pan washer. We're touching just about all the way around, so the washer's pretty straight, but pretty flat. Just about got all the way through the little burr at the bottom. I'm going to measure it here and see how we are on our thickness, see if we're the same thickness all the way around. There's one corner that's just a few thousandths thicker than the other, so I'm going to try to just go back and forth and put pressure just on that one side to bring it down just a little. This doesn't I mean, these washers don't have to be perfect. I mean, you know, if they're within, you know, a couple of thousandths, then we've done real good. They're just mainly just spacer washers, you know, so. Okay, work on that one corner just a little bit more. And here a little more so you can see what I'm doing. And what I'm doing, I'm just sanding a little bit and then measuring. Most everywhere we're at 40 thousandths, except for one little spot. So we'll flip it around and we'll sand the other side also to make sure it's still flat. And just sand and measure. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just putting pressure just with my finger just on the part that's thicker, trying to bring just that corner down. The first one I done came out a little straighter because I started with a thicker bushing, so the arbor held it a lot better. Yeah, if I had this to do over again, I would probably start with, you know, buy a thick piece of brass, you know, or a bronze, I mean, like a bearing stock. But sometimes you just got to work with what you got. Kind of hard to hold on to the washer, not get your finger in the sandpaper. Okay, that's got it pretty close, so I'm just going to do a figure 8 just a little more. And then we'll switch over to a little bit finer sandpaper. This is 220 grit, just to get some of the sanding scratches out. Flip it over and do both sides. And if you're real particular, you go keep working down. It's 1,000 grit here. This will really get it slick. And there's the washer. I'm pretty happy with it. It's within about 2 thousandths if you measure all the way around. You know, some parts of it measure exactly 40 thousandths, and then some parts measure around 42 thousandths. I mean, I could keep sanding on this, you know, and getting it even closer, but you know, there's really no need. It's all it is a thrust washer. You know, it's just there to, you know, to take up clearance and you know, to give us that spacing that we need, you know, to keep the rod from rubbing on the side of the crank webs. So I'm gonna say this job's done. We got two washers now, so we'll get started putting the crankshaft together.